Stones. Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:05 p.m. Central, and you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. And got Wham here representing.
Hey.
Hello. Last week was Ron Moorhead. That was a good interview. I hear a little background noise, making sure it's not my. Wait, hold on. Oh, no, it is. There we go. For some reason, this StreamYard, check it because it will, for some reason, it tries to go to my webcam microphone, and you got to make sure it's going to the Yeti. It'll do it automatically, and it'll cause havoc. Like it'll go to your other weird microphones that you don't want it to. That I didn't even know I had a webcam microphone the one night. I was like, finally solved that problem. That weird little background that I've always been like, what is that noise? It's because it was just going to my webcam as the microphone instead of my microphone that I wanted. But StreamYard's weird, but it's good. But let's see. Wallace Wagner here tonight. How's it going, Wally? How are you doing? Good to have you back.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be back. I really enjoy it.
Yes, and your new updated book, Crossing the Crevasse. And I know you got a lot of the Tic Tac stuff. Did I say that right? Tic Tac? It's Tic Tac.
Tic Tac.
Yes. And I noticed...
I did not coin that term. That was one of the fighter pilots that coined the term. It's actually a little candy or a mint that you can buy normally at a checkout counter.
I noticed they had some of those dudes from that experience, the Tic Tac sightings on Skinwalker Ranch show. And some of those dudes brought in technology, apparently, that witnessed that they track UFOs and brought in some crazy technology on that show. And then some of them got sick from being out there, but I don't want to get into that too much. But I've seen those guys, like some of the witnesses of that event came on that Skinwalker Ranch crazy show. And the reason it's crazy is because there's so many government spooks on that show. You're like, what are they doing? What are they up to? Bigelow personnel, the attorney state general, like I could go on and on. They have roundtables with government spooks at the end of that show, and you're like, what are they doing? They're up to something with this show.
I've seen every show. That's my favorite TV show.
That's good. Have you saw Beyond Skinwalker Ranch yet?
Yes.
What is going on with all that? It's like my jaw's dropping. It seems like Chris Bledsoe, former CIA Colonel John Alexander, and I know phenomenon happens because I've experienced and I believe it happens at Skinwalker Ranch. And I think there's something, it's crazy that weird similar stuff's happened at other ranches. But that show is government agents balls to the wall. What's going on with it from your mind?
Well, we're slowly getting drips, I guess, of a new palette of physics, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy, like shocking almost. Some of those stuff on there. And what do you think it is that is happening at these ranches? And why are ranches the pivot point for so much of it?
That's a very good question, Jeff. Anything I would say would be, a guess. But I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. Maybe that's because that's not a very populated area. Or, my question that I face all the time is how long has that been there? And how long has our government known about it? And are we in cahoots with that some way or another?
Yeah, and then I've heard some preachers talk about some of these forces are like, the devil and like factions of fallen angels, and you kind of get into that territory too with it. Is that something that's ingrained here, that's always been here, that's, this is their realm, and they're, it seems like they're interfering with any way they try to communicate with it. And then the weird 1.6 gigahertz signal from every, ranch place, it makes you wonder if there's something ingrained here, in the trenches that may be the enemy, like from the Bible or whatever. I don't know. How
You know,
crazy.
I'll just throw this out. What if it's been here since? Well, let me put it this way: since Elohim came here, and you're taught that they created this planet, but the actual word was bara. They actually divided what was here on this planet. But what if it goes back to day one, and it has always been there? I'm just throwing that out. I mean, I'm considering everything, but something to think about.
What do you think? What do you think about some of the radiation stuff at Skinwalker Ranch? What comes up with that? It seems like, is there a nuke buried there? Where's that coming from? Like radiation burns? Like that's crazy.
It's everything. The mystery is under the mesa, and I wish they would get a suitable drill. It's what they're drilling with, quite honestly, is Mickey Mouse. They need to get something like Oak Island has, a more heavy duty that will penetrate the rock and whatnot drill. So maybe they're limited budget wise on the program, but they need to be drilling into the mesa, and they need to be drilling down into the tunnels with drills that can do that. And in my opinion, they also need to be removing some of the blasted rocks that are there. We're going on years now that they've been there, and basically it's turned out to be a rocket show up to this point. So, but
And
there
then
is interesting stuff going on there for sure. But I'm sure it's originating from under the ground inside the mesa.
and they're doing the thermal readings, and there's definite structures there. And the last like season ended with them wondering if it's like a weird old military or alien base, and they have like all this infrared, and there's structures, like there's something there that's crazy, and they cannot drill through it. Everything breaks. Like it's just insane. It's one of the most insane shows I've ever seen about that stuff. And I don't try to, buy everything hook, sinker, and nail. I try to have some discernment. But it's crazy.
Well, they can get in there if they want to get in there. I don't think they're quite ready to do that yet. They're taking it step by step by step.
And has Bigelow already been there and taken it?
Bingo. Yeah. I fall into the category. I believe that there's already been a blast there to cover up a hole.
Yeah.
So Bigelow's been awfully quiet since he left there, and his name just keeps popping up.
He just seems kind of villainous to me for some reason. That's like Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom.
Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely crazy. And then if you start looking at UFO of God on Amazon, you have all these people. It's got like 5 stars and all these people under it saying, now I'm doing this. And I've done similar stuff like that before I knew about any of this stuff in my early 20s, where you could ask something to move and it would be a weird light moving or whatever. But now they're under it like, oh, we're doing this. And I swear that Colonel John Alexander has a weird blurb like, you can be like us too, or something weird on that God, the UFO God book. Like it reminds me of a John Carpenter movie.
Chris Bledsoe's the guy that can really, call the orbs in. He's from North Carolina. I'm sure you've probably seen him.
Yeah, I've seen the episode. I got the book. But
he's the real deal. He's the real deal.
I just, I think there's something to it. But when I see, CIA and the Colonel involved, I'm like, is there theatrics too? I don't know. But I mean, I know there's phenomenon because I've seen it. But, and I definitely believe there's phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch. And beyond Skinwalker Ranch, that just gets more interesting, especially with the whole Navajo police episode where they were relieving that lady's home from the S. Walker situation. And supposedly the S. Walker situation, these natives left that house behind, and because of the S. Walkers being there. And basically the Navajo police went out there, and a lot of stuff happened with wind and things like that. That was creepy and weird. And then later, I guess the Navajo Nation gave her a new house because no one ever wanted to go back to that house ever. And that situation with, I say S walkers because I'm like, I don't want to say the full word, But those things are really creepy, and the stuff with that. But it's good. It's good so far. It's definitely some of the best I've seen. It's just hard to believe when there's so many government situations going on in it. That's where it's weird. Like with Skinwalker Ranch, they had the black helicopters coming in, and they have like the attorney state general trying to track who this other clandestine like government agency is that's trying to interfere with the show. So there's like weird stuff like that. It gets really, it's a hell of a soap opera.
Beware of Dugway.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about Crossing the Crevasse. What do you mean by that title? Sounds really good. I like the title.
Well, I thought a long time before I came up with that title, and the crevice in my world is falling hook, line, sinker, rod, and reel into what you're taught from mainstream churches and whatnot. Crossing the crevice is an attempt to get to the other side without falling into the crevice. My second book, Within Grasp, was getting real close, and I just finished writing my third book, which should be to the publisher hopefully late next week, called The Nucleus. It'll be the third and final book of this information. But when I saw my craft back in 2016, I was a mailman at the time, and something or somebody told me to stop. And I was standing in this lady's front yard on the way back to my vehicle, and I looked up, and right over my head was the craft, what we now call the white Tic Tac. No windows, no wings, gleaming white, cylindrical, no nacelles, no sound, nothing. It was just there. And let me see it for about 3 seconds. And then it either cloaked, took off so fast I couldn't see it, or maybe went into another dimension. Who knows? But at that time, I was a conservative Methodist. I've also been a conservative evangelical Southern Baptist. And it has changed me. It's one of these things in life that you'll never forget. Like, I'm old enough, when JFK was murdered. I remember that day vividly. This is right up there with that. I'll never forget it. It has caused me to back up and re-examine for myself, doing my own homework, things that I have been, taught in the past, and the Bible's always been my foundation. And I want to make this stipulation right now. Whatever I'm saying, it pertains to me only. I'm not a Bible basher. I'm just a truth teller. But I've done a lot of homework myself on early church history, Bible history, what's in the Bible, how it's put together, and whatnot. And having been, having, I guess, almost every position in the church, aside from pastor or deacon, everything else I've pretty much done. I've come to the conclusion that we're only getting bits and pieces of the truth, in what we call truth from the Bible, and what is taught in seminaries and theological schools and the such. That there's a lot of stuff that is different than what we're told, and the history is a lot of times completely overlooked. And I just got into this, I've got to find the truth mentality. And so I've started doing homework myself. And that's, I guess, what precipitated me writing this book. I'm retired now. In fact, the month I saw the craft was the same month I retired. And I had bought a bass boat And that was in my, my forecast for retirement. I was going to the Great Lakes and go walleye fishing and smallmouth bass fishing and do some traveling. But seeing the craft has ended up really, changing me. And I really think it's for the better. I'm fully convinced now that I've been on a spiritual path, and I've uncovered a lot of truths for me, and it's been refreshing in many ways. And yeah, go ahead.
And I know you said that something told you to stand still, like an inner voice or a thought. What was that like?
That's a good question. I've been asked that before, and I really had no reason to stop, because if you're a mailman, you're always in a hurry because you have to beat the mail truck going back to the processing center with everybody's mail. You just don't have time to stop and talk anymore. But for some reason, maybe it was subliminal. Maybe they knew I was going to write a book. Maybe, I don't know. The answer is I don't know, but it did happen. And
Yeah.
maybe there was a connection there. The thoughts go through my mind. Did they want me to see them? Was that the purpose? That it would be a life-changing event for me? Maybe it was a malfunction. Honestly don't know.
Here's what's gives me goosebumps, and I'm getting them right now thinking about it. To tell you this, when I've had my encounter, something tells me, and it's not an audio voice, it's more like your own thought, but not really. Something goes, go outside and look in the sky. And it's happened to me 2 times. I've seen stuff more than that, but these 2 times I remember like a thought, like you're saying, like something edging you to see it. I was inside. I wasn't going to go outside. The first time something told me, go outside and look, I went outside and looked and saw these firefly, like UFOs is what I call them. They're like red energy that was weird in the heavens. I screamed for my brother and nephew. They came out and saw them. And I don't know what they were. I don't know if little ETs were driving them. I mean, I don't know if it was space phenomenon. I don't know. It was weird, whatever it was. But during that time, I had said a prayer to get interviews and was having trouble. And then after that experience, I ended up on a radio show talking about it somehow. And then next thing you know, I'm on the phone with Stanton Friedman. And,
boy.
Nick
You went right to the top.
Yeah. And he did this interview. I interviewed him several times, and I used to do these little chat interviews where people would just type only, no audio, like old school AOL. Like this was a long time ago, but he needed me there for tech reasons. So the whole time I was on the phone with him, which I didn't mind, of Stanton Friedman. But it seemed like that UFO sighting somehow was connected to raising consciousness, and they wanted me to see it. And there's a connection, and that's why they do it. Like you said, it's them orchestrating it, maybe because they're raising consciousness. I don't know. But the second time was the light beings. I had been listening to the Watchword Bible on DVD, playing it in the house to keep bad things away from me. One of those DVDs where it's like a meditation or something. No, stop it. And something goes, go outside and look. I went outside and looked, turned towards my house, completely sober. Not weed, not tobacco, completely sober. 2 people made of light leaving my home as if they were in it and flew straight into the heavens, through the roof, into the heavens. And I saw them, and I couldn't see facial like features or anything, but it was like out of a comic book almost. It was so weird. Like it was just 2 people made of light, and maybe they could have been UFOs in themselves, and maybe they could turn into that like a spear. I don't know, but the way I saw them, they looked like 2 people. They had arms and legs, and they were very low over my roof and just shoot straight up. Maybe it was my dad who passed when I was younger. I mean, it could be deceased loved ones, angels, that because I was like, oh, he's listening to the Bible. Let's go down there and check it out. Uh-oh. And I don't know what it was, but and both of those times, something told me to do it, like an urging, like something just guiding you. And maybe it's them. I mean, all the above. I don't know.
Have you ever heard of the Shining Ones?
The Shining Ones?
Mm-hmm.
Robert Stanley. I know I've
The
heard that name.
O'Briens wrote a book called The Shining Ones.
What's his name again?
The O'Briens.
The O'Briens. I'll have to look it up.
Christian and Barbara Joy O'Brien.
Okay.
But it sounds like maybe you saw some shining ones.
Definitely.
Anyway, we're beings of light. You know that, right?
Yes, that's what
We create photons when we concentrate and pray and whatnot.
That's what I thought too. If it's us without our bodies, that's what we are, because I've read shamanism stuff, luminous beings of light, things like that. And there's been times where when I was out at Silver Lake, the place I saw them, I would look into the heavens and see them out there, like clusters of them. And it was like something was showing me. And then later I'd go out and it'd be dull. Like, it's like the hand of God. Like shamans call it seeing, but it's like it touches you and you see it. Then, of course, you always want to see it more. And then you go out there later and it's dull and you don't see it. But I've had experiences where I've seen those beings, like a lot of them out there. And I think maybe that's a staging area where we go and we pass, maybe. I don't know. I just know I've seen them out there.
So has that changed you like it did for me?
Definitely. I mean, it led to doing the show. I had a lot of fear from a lot of the UFO stuff, like PTSD. I was afraid to leave my house. Sometimes I still have that. I don't want to go outside. I do, but sometimes I'm like, ugh, I don't want like Nosferatu. No. But I'm in Florida and the bugs, it's like they just look at me like I'm dinner. Like they just like wait for me, I think, out there. But yeah, it's changed me a lot. It's definitely opened me up, and I've interviewed so many people and found out, a lot. But that's the big thing dealing with, is the fear and all that. Trying to figure out what it is,
Well, there's a group of people out there that think that all the UFOs are really from the devil. So, I mean, I've heard that before, and actually,
me too.
Well, but they've always been here. We've never been alone. I mean, even Josephus, wrote about the Sky Army. We've never been alone. They've always been around. So me being an ancient alien believer, who we call God, or let me rephrase that, who most people call God, came here in a ship. He came here in a craft and he flew. So it's very possible that all the technology that he had was misinterpreted, and that's how that God was created.
Yeah, and the stuff about all the devil making all that stuff, that's, I mean, I could see some of it, but all of it, I mean, everybody got a car, in space, like a UFO, or how they paint whole races of beings being, evil, like all the reptilians are evil. You don't know if all the reptilians are evil. Like, how do you know that? So there's a lot of things like that are annoying for sure.
I mean, I've heard that the serpent in the garden could have been a reptilian. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that theory as well, definitely. It's definitely fascinating for sure. And I've had some reptilian experiences, and I was partying and being bad in my younger days. When my dad died, I went through testicular cancer at 17, chemo, lost one, and then woke up at 17 and said, you lost a testicle, you had to go through chemo. Went through all that, and then my dad died a year or so later. So it was looked into a lot of stuff where trauma triggers some of this stuff. I think that's part of it. Well, not for everybody, but for me, it opens up the senses when you go through something like that. And one of my experiences, when I had never done drugs ever, because my dad said he'd kill me if I did them. So I never did them. But when he died, I had a few years where I was stupid. But during that time, I did see some reptilian beings that were very strange, and they were not physical, but they were definitely. My first reaction was, oh my God, I'm seeing a fallen angel or the devil. But it was weird because they were given like positive messages, like "I love you" and write and dance and sing. It's like they were like a self-help book or something. So
Did they have yellow eyes?
they I don't really. It was hard to see their eyes, but the closest thing I've come to seeing something like them is pictures of Mayan gods. Like they were so weird. Like it was like a humanoid, but it was almost like it had. I'm not gonna say Medusa-like snakes because I don't think they were alive like snakes, but some kind of weird hair, like reptilian Bob Marley or something. But it was humanoid, and then there was one that was kind of like a Hydra, like it had more than one head, like like the Hercules thing. But it was very weird, like almost like an astral projection or a hologram or something. It wasn't physical. It was just like almost like looking at a video game or something like something. It was weird, but my reaction was fear and oh my God, the false story and all that. Maybe it was them putting that story in my head. I don't know, but it was the strangest part. Though they were just saying positive messages, and there was a guy there that night that tried to drive. He was acting possessed, and he had been doing drugs, an overweight guy, and he tried to drive me and my brother in a lake with his truck, like just acting crazy. So I'm sure there's forces around, no doubt, that was going on that night. But yeah, I've seen the reptilians. I think there's something to it, but I don't think they're all evil. That's just stupid. That's like Hitler genocide thinking, saying a whole race is evil when that's just not the way it goes.
Well, we could be working alongside of them right now in Antarctica or in Dulce, New Mexico. We just, I'm a big believer. There's a lot of secret stuff going on.
Yeah. And some of the stuff I see involves the devil and UFOs and the fallen angels in Antarctica. I even saw, which I didn't listen to it, but I saw the title of a David Wilcock live thing, and he kind of gets a little crazy with that Q stuff and stuff, which I'm not really into. But he was like Lucifer's palaces in Antarctica. That was in the title of his one of his latest videos. It's like how do you know? Did you go there? But yeah, I see a lot of that stuff. It gets crazy for sure. Exopolitics, I don't think it's all kooky, but there's a lot of kooky in exopolitics.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to be brought forth from Antarctica. I'm fully convinced of that. So that's in our future.
And they seem to think that's where some kind of force is there that really controls everything. Or could it be just an ancient civilization that's there that left things behind, and that's why they're there? I mean, there's so many, or they could be living there, still. Just so many ways to go with it. But one thing, getting back on the track of the book and everything, and the Tic Tac sightings, we've seen lately all those court hearings with David Grush, and we retrieved UFOs and all that stuff. And then the Pentagon's released these videos, and then it's like, I swear the Pentagon just said there is no alien stuff after all that. So it's like very confusing.
Yeah, I also heard that was a mistake. They should have never have released them, but it's one of those things that I'm fully convinced that as a whole, this society of ours is not ready to handle disclosure if it came all at once. I think we would implode. We need to continue getting drips. And, I've been asked before, when's disclosure going to happen? And my answer now is it'll happen when they want it to happen, and they is open for interpretation, either Majestic 12 or the aliens themselves. But if it were to happen right now, Jeff, I believe that it would be panic, complete chaos, with the stock markets closed, the banks closed for a period of time, the Walmart shelves are being empty, that type of thing. It would as Dr. Barry Downing would say, it would be a meta-reformation. The churches and theology schools would have to rewrite everything. And then we would realize the government's been lying to us for a long time. There's a whole nother plate of physics out there that have been kept from us. It's one of those things you think about, but I'm just not sure we're ready for it. And I know the area I'm in. I'm in Virginia, the southern part of Virginia, but most of my friends that I have here, I think would freak out if we found out that we've already been out there. There's been 80 some races that have visited us already. We've been in cahoots with them since Truman and Eisenhower days. We have anti-gravity. We can fly faster than the speed of light. We already have crafts that are interplanetary, on and on. And I'm just not sure that all at once we can handle that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that point of view. I mean, I always recall the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, and it'd probably be that times a gazillion now.
Yep.
I mean, and just the way things are now, not to get into politics, God forbid, but I mean, we're on the brink of civil war or whatever with all the Trump and Biden stuff and all that crap that's going on. That's on the brink of God knows what, right now. So
I don't think this country's ever been as divided as it is right now.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive during slavery, but in my lifetime, for sure, we're sure not together. I mean, you can just look at Washington D.C. and realize, I mean, both sides hate each other, and hate's probably not the right word to use. Let's say despise each other. I want to get the upper hand on each other. We're not even communicating.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't understand the Trump thing. And recently, it's like both sides are just But I not to get into this too heavily, but there was a video of Biden. This is kind of, probably regret mentioning this, but he was at a conference with Democrats, and he let loose wind, and everyone laughed. And this was real. Like, I made sure this was real because I know they have fake things of that. And he saluted after it, like, and made a weird face. It was real. I have the video if you want to see it. Trust me, you probably don't want to see it.
That's our president.
Yeah, it was so crazy. Like, and I mostly, kind of would rather have that than it's confusing because both sides. I'm like, do I need to just burn my ballot live on Facebook? Like, I was for Bernie because of insurance stuff. I've been there, but he's not in the picture anymore. But I know what it's like to suffer and need insurance. But the choices now are just like Napoleon and Sir Farts-a-Lot. I don't really know. Both sides just suck.
That is correct. For sure.
That video, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was real. And he really saluted. I understand passing gas more than anyone, but I could just see Putin and the China guy watching this thing. Like, nuke them right now. That's why they're going to nuke us. But yeah, it's scary. Everything's just a nightmare. It seems like
crazy times.
For sure. So I know this gets complex, but where do you stand when it comes to Jesus Christ? Do you think that's going to be like a physical phenomenon that happens, or do you think it's already kind of happened? It's in all of us. I mean, where do you stand on that? The return of Jesus Christ.
Where do I stand on that? Well, that is a awfully important and loaded question.
And how it's going to happen? Like, do you think he's going to show up like on, and CNN's like, there's Jesus, like a Superman in the sky?
Being that I am an ancient alien believer, being that I know that Jesus was in a craft, his father was in a craft, all these gods that all these different times and all the different nations all around the world, they all came in crafts. They were all treated as gods because they had technology. I believe when Jesus returns, and he will return, it will be in a craft, and he will bring thousands of crafts with him. Now, what does that mean, or how is that going to play out? Well, that's really where I start going in different directions. Um, some people will not believe that that's Jesus. Some people will believe we're being invaded. Um, it's going to be interesting on how all that plays out. Uh, I am just ready to let it go right now to say that he will return in crafts, and there'll be multiple crafts with him. Now, if you consider that to be the day of the Lord, some people may or may not, then these crafts may, be doing damage to the earth. Uh, uh, it may be a stressful time. It depends on what your belief structure is, but for me, I'm ready to be picked up and taken out of here. And I believe that's exactly how that will happen when Paul says that we'll meet uh, uh, them in the sky or in the clouds. It's like beam me up, Scotty. That's what's going to happen. And I believe that Jesus is away now, as in John 14, making a new world for us. And when that world is completed and things get out of whack here, he will return and take us along with other flocks. No pun intended. That's my website, but to this new world where there'll be new heavens.
Well, definitely. It's a good answer. I've had weird visions when I was younger of craft coming down and people going to them, and some were scared and went into like a cave or something and ran from them, like weird stuff like that, where I was like, what the heck was that? But weird, like vision kind of stuff. And then
it's funny how we've changed, because I used to believe that too. I mean, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and that's when all the the War of the Worlds and This Island Earth and all those scary movies were on, and you were really programmed to be scared of UFOs. But then Star Wars comes along, and the bar scenes, and Star Trek comes along, and now we have instant communication and YouTube, and everybody's got cameras. It's no longer a scary thing. I was not scared when I saw my craft. In fact, I said, "Well, hello there." That's exactly what I said. It's just I was caught off guard, but I was not scared. So when these crafts return, I will not be running for the hills or running to the caves. I'll be running to the craft.
And how was that day afterwards as a mailman? I mean, I could just imagine after that, you a mailman, and you go back to work after seeing that. It's like a weird movie.
Well, yeah, it was, but I didn't tell too many people. I did not tell people at the post office what I saw. I only told family members in my Sunday school class. I was teaching Sunday school at the time, and in a Methodist, they took it fairly well. And what else can I say? I mean, there's UFOs scattered throughout the Bible. That's one of the things that I've uncovered myself, from all the way up to Revelation. There's UFOs and crafts in the Bible. I mean, God flew. The Old Testament God flew. He flew on cherubs. He flew in spirits, wings of eagles. He flies, and he flew. And one of these, I guess, epiphanies that I've had is how do you go down if you're already supposed to be there? And I've asked this to so many different people, and I've never gotten an answer. So for our audience, how do you go down if you're already supposed to be there? I mean, we're taught that this God, who most people say is the God of the Bible, is everything, omnipotent, omnipotent, you name it. How do you go down if you're already supposed to be there? And this God goes down some 19 times in the Bible. He goes down to see what's happening with Sodom and Gomorrah. He goes down to see what's happening with the Tower of Babel. And there's, other instances. You can't go down if you're already there. He's not this God of the Bible for me now, and I'm speaking for myself on these truths I've uncovered, is not anything. So I'll just throw that out now. Changes his mind, jealous. Look at how many people were killed. I always make a joke now. Satan was responsible for 10 killings, and if you include the flood, it's been mentioned that the Old Testament gods. Well, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but if you include the flood, it could be up to 1 billion people because people lived longer back then.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking the Jebusites, all the different people, plus even the Israelis. I mean, he killed his own people, the plagues and all the diseases and whatnot. There's just so much information there if you know where to look that's never taught to you. I mean, we're taught that God is all loving, God is everything, and Jesus in the New Testament is the son of the God of the Old Testament. And I believed that for 60 years, and I just don't believe that anymore. I guess for me, it's mentioned 3 times in the New Testament that no one sees God and lives. And in the book I just finished, I've counted over 200 different people that saw the Old Testament God and lived. So something's out of whack there. And I don't want to delve too much into that. It's in my book, but I have a hard time accepting the Old Testament God of Israel being God of the universe.
Yeah, man. It could be like other factions of aliens or something, and they just say it's
Well,
God.
they were aliens. We're all aliens. Our citizenship is in heaven, but they came here. The earth was already present when they came here. It was actually division between the Elohim and the Shinimim. And I don't know what the Shinimim is. Maybe they were the existing race here, but there was a division, not a creation. And the word was Bara, Bara, and you can tie in the Anunnaki if you want, but without a doubt, I believe the planet was here already. Now maybe they terraformed it or improved it in some way, and maybe took the population that was here and tweaked the DNA a little bit. That's possible, but for me now, things have been completely different ever since what I saw my craft. And that's what I've put in my 3 books, the path that I've gone and all the knowledge I've accumulated, and the going inside that the church does not teach, that Jesus really taught. You really learn, if you do your own homework, that Jesus taught 2 tiers of knowledge. We, the Gentiles, got the lower tier. His disciples and all the Gnostic texts that were taken out basically had upper tier information in it. So there's a lot that we were not taught, and a lot that was taken out that should have been in the Bible. And in my humble world, the Old Testament should be in a separate book from the New Testament, because it is 2 different gods completely.
Have you gotten?
I better stop before I get myself in trouble.
You're good. The more trouble, the better. But I've had some interest in the Book of Enoch. Have you gotten into that much? That definitely gets strange. I don't know exactly where that came from or the history on that, but it's definitely seems to be a little deeper and weirder.
I put that in the appendix of Within Grasp. It's in the back. It's one of those books that everyone should read. If you're a Christian or a believer, you need to read the book of Enoch. It was indirectly referenced in the book of Jude and also indirectly referenced in Corinthians with Paul when he went to the third heaven. I've heard so many crazy sermons on the third heaven, but if you read the book of Enoch, that's really where we go. There are levels in heaven, and the third heaven is reserved for us. And you know, the book of Enoch mentions the Messiah, and the Hebrews did not want that in the Bible, so it got kicked out. But Irenaeus and Clement of Alexandria and others wanted it in the Bible, and it's still in the Bible in the Ethiopian Orthodox. It's still there, but everyone needs to read it for sure. It's difficult to read, a lot of names, a lot of angel names, but a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff.
I've seen them draw some Antarctica connections to it about fallen angels being imprisoned there or something from it. I don't know exactly what verse or anything, but I've seen that comparison or brought up in discussions and stuff.
Well, the fallen angels are mentioned in Jude, and in the book of Enoch, they're on level 2. Whereas we go to level 3. Level 2 holds what's called the Gregari, and those are the fallen angels. So you'll find that out in the book of Enoch.
And I know you get into the flood heavily, a 6,000-year-old Earth and a 4,500-year-old flood. What can you tell us a bit about the flood, and were there survivors? I mean, it seems like the flood, from what I've heard, didn't exactly cover the whole Earth, did it? It just like got some of it. Right?
You know, we've had that discussion in the Baptist church before, and the pastor's wife told me, well, it says it covered the whole Earth, so I believe it covered the whole Earth. Well, for me, you have to consider what the whole Earth was at that time when it was written. I mean, the Earth was still flat for a lot of people, even up to Columbus's time. Do I think it covered the whole Earth? My honest answer is I don't know, but I believe that more than 8 people lived, without a doubt. You know, was there a flood? The answer is yes. That's pretty much covered in every tradition. But is the Earth 6,000 years old? Lord, no. The Earth is billions of years old. There's a group of, you know, people that have written books out there that claim the Earth is 6,000 years old, like Ken Ham or DeYoung or McFarlane and others. You know, the person that built the Ark in Kentucky, that's pretty much a 6,000-year-old Earth believer. And I had a pastor who believed the Earth was 6,000 years old. You know, I challenged him, you know, about it a lot. I write about some of the methodology in determining ages, and I mentioned carbon-14. Carbon-14 is actually pretty exact up to about 50,000 years. Now, after that, it's not very exact. But I mean, we only got to find something 7,000 years, and we've already blown the 6,000-year-old Earth theory to pieces. You look at Göbekli Tepe and some of these structures from around the world that have been built. We know that they're 11 and 12,000 years old, and I'll even go a step further than that. I'm pretty much a believer that the Great Pyramid is substantially older than, you know, what we're led to believe. We're led to believe that it was built during the Pharaoh Khufu's time, back around 2560 or so BCE, and they had all of this knowledge, and we were led to believe that, you know, they started out with making mud and adobe pyramids, and they did the step pyramid, and then they got the bent pyramid, and they continued to increase their knowledge to finally they got it right and made the Great Pyramid. Yeah, right. Well, the Great Pyramid is off the charts compared to the others. And if you go 70 years further than the Great Pyramid, all that knowledge is apparently lost, because Yusuf pyramid is nothing but a heap of rocks. So I blow a lot of holes into the pyramid theory that it was built back around 25 or 2560 BCE. But the Earth is a lot older than 6,000 years. A lot older. It's billions of years old. And while we're on this subject, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but for our audience to know, time really does not exist. Let that resonate. Time does not exist. Time is only for us here now, nothing more than a measurement of the Earth going around the sun. That's all time is. We've all been alive before we were born. Some of us realize it and some don't. And our spirits never die. So you factor that into time, and you really come to the conclusion there's a lot to be said that a day with the Lord is 1,000 years or something. Time doesn't exist as we think it does, and that's really proven with Einstein's theory of relativity. So you can, if you were in a spaceship, Jeffrey, and flew out to the heavens beyond the speed of light and flew back again, no one would know you. You might find your great grandchildren here, and they may have heard you or read about you or remember you from their grandparents or something, but time doesn't exist. It's really a fallacy. Think of it as infinite, no beginning and no end. And we could very well be the same type of creatures. So I'll just throw that out.
I jokingly said the true terror is that we are infinite. It never ends.
Well,
It never ends. But the biggest problem with Earth life is just the structure of society's bills and stuff. That's the bone crushing part of it.
well, this is not a 4-star resort.
Yeah.
And if you believe like me, I chose to incarnate here. So, I know I was alive before. I have a birthmark to prove it. But I know now from my studies and meditation and whatnot, the path that I've been on, I know I was alive before and I'll be alive after I die. So I believe in reincarnation without a doubt. And that was actually accepted in the early church. We can talk on that if you want, but it slowly got weeded out.
Is it forced?
A lot of that's in my Bible or in my Crossing the Crevasse too.
I wonder, is it forced? Do you think reincarnation? They make you do it? Like this is like their school to babysit us, and you're going to the Earth. You got to go. Like going to 6th grade at 6 a.m.
I don't know, but I think there's easier places you could go to incarnate to. I think that we're all here for a reason. And this is a challenging place. Let me put it that way, in a lot of different respects.
Definitely, it's
even more so for us here in the United States, the land of plenty. We have so many distractions, and so it's so easy to get on the wrong road, so to speak. Here. We have so much stuff. Let me just say the word stuff. And we all accumulate stuff. We can't take any of it with us.
Definitely. And that's it. I mean, it's concrete and consumerism. Like every, Walmart and yada, 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 and a million places to eat your money. Repeat and rinse.
Well, we live in a society here where to be successful, you have to have things, and you want things. Everybody wants to be successful. They want to be accepted, and it's really crazy in a lot of respects. You want the house, you want the boat, you want the nice car, you want your kids to be educated at the best schools you can afford. Of course, I guess it's free now if you know the right people, but you can get your loan paid off maybe. But everybody wants to continue in all this materialism. That's what I see now, and I think that is not what life is really supposed to be. Took me a long time to come to that conclusion, but a lot more to life than having things.
It's like the term "hungry ghost." I think that's Tibetan.
Hungry ghost.
Yeah, but a
Hmm.
lot of hungry ghosts for sure. And just getting caught up in it all. It's everything's a bait, no matter which way you turn, for sure. And so I'm trying to think, where do we stand right now with UFOs and all the Congress stuff? The congressional stuff, is that over?
It seems like it has quieted down substantially since the televised conference. Um, I guess that's why I'm focused on Skinwalker Ranch. I think something like that's where we're going to start getting our drips now, and I think the government is aware of that. We're forcing the issue now, so we'll have
Yeah,
to see where this goes.
they act like they're about to just bring an alien out on the show.
Well,
That's like, here's
it,
ET, everybody.
I'm all for it.
It is weird. That is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I don't watch a lot of those kind of shows, but that one, just the government level on it, is the creepy part for sure. And then their computer's named Satan. Is that a good idea? Like, who did that? That seemed kind of stupid. Here's our computer, Satan. We named it Satan. Like, okay, well, that's nice.
I wonder how your audience would feel if I told you that I believe that Satan and the God of the Old Testament could very well have been brothers.
Certainly. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. You got Thor and Loki and stuff like that. There's a lot of parallels to other cultures.
The original Canaanite God was not Yahweh. It was El. El was the Most High God, and he was the one that issued inheritance to his 70 sons. And the God of the Old Testament was one of the 70 sons. So there were 69 other gods who got their inheritance as well. So that's just something to chew on.
And then there seems to be a lot of like deliverance style inbreeding with a lot of these stories. They're kind of weird. But that's like there's only 8 people with Noah. Well, that sounds like somewhere it went Alabama at some point, which I love Alabama, but I jokingly say that I'm from Georgia. But there seems to be a lot of that. I know I'd mentioned something about the survivors of the flood and how a lot of people, they try to tie Bigfoot into the sons of Cain. And I know you said that you didn't agree with that. Can you get into that a little bit? Not just I'm just curious to your point of view on it.
Well, my point of view is I believe that Bigfoot has been here for a long time. How long? Maybe originally long. I believe they have the ability to phase out. And by that I mean disappear, slowly, maybe switch dimensions.
Yes.
They have some special powers. I'm not sure we have a grasp on all the powers that they may or may not have. And power is probably not the right word. Let's say, I don't know, not instincts, but abilities that we're just now discovering.
They could be some of the old school aliens we've been talking about.
Well, they could be. I mean, there's oftentimes orbs or crafts seen, when Bigfoot are present. But I'm going to bet on that they've been here a long time, and we may be a derivative from them. We could very well be something the Anunnaki fooled with DNA, and we're maybe along those lines.
Ron Moorhead had said something about natives interbreeding with them, like hybridization and stuff. Like there's some native kind of stuff. I forget what he said. I have to listen to it again, but something like that about natives. And because the natives used to have like a Bigfoot healer that they would have in their stories or something like that. And who's to say the Bigfoot may have did it to become stronger or vice versa and stuff like that.
Well, I'll just say that I believe that they're out there. I have not seen one, but I've certainly seen a lot of pictures on TV and YouTube and whatnot.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, they're out there.
I haven't seen one either, and it seems like they just want to show themselves to like people that want to shoot them. Come here, Bigfoot. It's like, I want to see you. I don't have a gun. I'll check you out.
I don't know. It seems like the best sightings are when you're stationary and they're so inquisitive they come to you. But these TV shows are always going out after them, show after show, year after year after year, and normally at night. And I don't think that's the way. If you want to film one, I guess that's the purpose, is to see one and to film one. I think I would just go camp out and have a cookout and be prepared to stay out there for 2 or 3 weeks with cameras, and they would come to you or come to me. That's how I think I would see one.
Find an area where they have been seen and go out there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
They don't probably. It seems like they toy a lot with people. So a lot of those people, they get rocks thrown at them and stuff.
Well, you got to remember, it's made for TV.
Yeah, could be someone, the cameraman, throwing a rock.
Yep.
You go. So, what's your view on Sons of Cain? That gets creepy, and the land of Nod and all that, like those race of people, just some of that stuff.
Well, without a doubt, there were people on the planet when the Garden of Eden was built. Okay, there were people already outside Eden. That's where Cain went, and some of the books that did not make it into the Bible actually have the Garden of Eden being more on a mountain, and all the generations of Adam being on a mountaintop. And if you went into the valleys, that's where the heathens lived. So, we know that there were people here. So, and Cain had a mark put on his forehead. But there again, this is where the Bible gets really whacked. There's two different genealogies going from Adam to Noah. If you follow the one to Cain, Cain's son was Enoch, and Enoch built cities. But when you say this, the children of Cain, I think for the most part it could very well be people that don't grow hair on their face. Maybe some of the Asian people, maybe. Those may be more along the line of Cain. But even if you're Cain, you're still part of the original Adam. So I'm not real hung up on the children of Cain versus the children of Seth or directly from Adam. But I guess it's a topic for conversation. I mean, they went two different ways. So
yeah, it gets complex for sure. I mean, there's so many ways to look at it, and so many levels, and so many different viewpoints and everything with it. And I know we're talking about society and how they would react to UFOs and everything like that. It does seem like there's a lot of stories of people trying to shoot them, or in Bigfoot and aliens. That's like the first response of a lot of people is
Annie, get your gun. Yep. But you know what? I think we're maturing as a society. At least I hope I'm right when I say that. You have communication to thank for that. But why would you want to shoot? I mean, only if you've been trained that they're evil. And if they were evil, think about this. Why? And they have these powers. I mean, we wouldn't be here now. They've been with us all along, and we're still here. I have a hard time saying that they're evil. Now, I'm not saying that there's not evil in the universe. I mean, you know, I've read both Linda Moulton Howe's books, and I'm convinced, as she is, that people say that evil is out there, but is evil here? Do they? I don't think so. I also have a problem with our interpretation of Satan and Satan being evil. If you, I can draw a correlation with the Old Testament God and Satan, and prove that the Old Testament God is technically more evil than Satan. So he just got a bad rap. Let's put it that way. And just like El and Baal and Asherah, they got bad raps. When the Old Testament God was a local God, and around the 7th or 8th century BCE, all these gods started morphing together into one God, and then that one God, as society moved westward, going through Europe and then eventually into the United States, this one God instantly became God of the universe. So we have a local 1 out of 70 children God that was just the God of Israel. That's all the God of the Old Testament was the God of Israel, and Israel was his people. Other gods served, other peoples. And we have let that God become the God of the universe, and the whole thing's just whacked for me now.
Yep, and did the UFO thing throw that? Was that the horseshoe that did it? The UFO.
Well, it was the catalyst. I mean, seeing the UFO, then started wondering, have we been alone? Is it theirs? Is it ours? Then realizing that UFOs are all through the Bible. All through the Bible. Even John in Revelation 4, when he was called up into the Spirit. So if you're listening, grab your Bibles and go to Revelation 4, and your translation will say that he saw a door open in heaven and was called up into the Spirit. This is one of the places where spirit is a craft. Zechariah 6 is another place. People flew. I mean, even Solomon flew. So this flying happened with a lot of the old gods from all the other traditions, from Hermes to Vishnu, Enki, Ra. I mean, Gabriel flew. Quetzalcoatl flew. The Anunnaki could fly. I mean, people flew, and these people who came here were treated as gods. And now we fly, and I do believe in a secret government, and I believe that we're already out there, and I believe that we fly too. So
I know Wham. I know you talked about Linda Moulton Howe a lot. Is there anything that stands out about her, that Wham, that you recall? Linda Moulton Howe, you just mentioned her.
Well, no. I mean, I pay attention to her because she's one of the few people in the world that, pays attention to things like cattle mutilations and, that kind of stuff. She catalogs these odd experiences. I don't actually agree with her interpretation of things, but I don't care. I mean, I don't really listen to people to figure out whether I agree or disagree with them. I listen to them to see, what information they're conveying and what of it may be useful or interesting. But that's, I like her. She's a good person. I like her cats. I watch her Earth Files sometimes.
I do too.
And or I listen. Actually, what I usually do is the next day afterwards, I listen to it at work because she's like 2 hours behind me. So I'm usually in bed by the time she's actually live. So, but I listen to her while I work. So Yeah, I mean, you know, she's
been doing this stuff since the 70s.
yeah, she's been doing it for a long time, and you know, as a person, she, you know, as a person, she has integrity. So as far as I can tell, so you know, that's all that matters to me. She's honest about what she believes and in what she does research into, and you know, she tries to check things, and you know, people can be like that and still I disagree with them. They can still be like that and still be wrong. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It doesn't matter. So but that's the value I see in her. I'll put it that way. It's the value.
They flew her out to Skinwalker Ranch on an episode, and there was a cow that got mutilated, and they actually caught a UFO that did it. That was in the sky above it. She was looking over the data and everything. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly trying to figure out the cattle mutilation thing. That is just the weirdest thing. It just seems like aliens doing weird stuff, or maybe a government program, but maybe the aliens are eating. I don't know, but it's definitely.
I think it's a combination of us and them. I think we're actually working with them here on this planet under some type of an agreement.
Yeah, that's the whole.
And that agreement may go back to Eisenhower or Truman, actually. So, you know, if they don't make themselves known, we'll let you work here side by side with us. And it's quite apparent that they're taking specific parts of these animals, and it's precision cuts, lasers, and no blood typically. And you wonder where this laboratory is. Is it in a craft that we can't see? I mean, is it in a cloaked craft or another dimension? And there's laboratories where they are perhaps trying to create something different or improve something that's already here, or to give something, an animal, another ability, maybe to go to another planet or something. All these thoughts keep going through my mind. I know it's happening for a reason. You just wonder if the reason is nefarious.
There's a lot of stuff too about fallen angels or Satan making these cryptids, like they make Dog Man and stuff like the ancient Greek gods, chimeras and stuff like that. Like that's a big thing that a lot of I've had some preachers bring up, Bill Bean, stuff like that. Which who knows if that's true? You're not going to really know it unless you're there, and if you're there, you're probably going to get turned into the experiment yourself. So imaginations go wild with this stuff. I mean, it's a possibility, I guess, that they're making Dog Man, but it's a lot. You know, it's the devil. It's Dr. Evil making Dog Man experiments.
Well, I hear that there's multiple levels underground at Dulce, and we are working side by side with aliens there, and you know that could be one of the bases. And I've always thought about Dugway, and I've always thought about Antarctica, because I fully believe, and this goes back to a Linda Moulton Howe interview, by the way, Wham. She interviewed some people that were picked up. They disappeared for a while, and let's just say they were very scared and very tight-lipped on what they saw. But apparently, there's an underground base or bases there, and we are working side by side with aliens. So
yeah, I got a story for you. A friend of mine, Daniel, who's co-hosted a long time ago, his dad works for the Pentagon, or used to, and he swore up and down to me, and even came on the show and told it, and said that when he was younger, his dad took him there, and there was an alien named Bob there that like lived in like a weird office and watched baseball and had baseball stuff, and claimed he was an alien, and met him. And I was like, dude, you're either crazy or that really happened. I don't know which one, or a bit of both, but swears up and down that there was like an alien working there with him named Bob that loved baseball. And he
what about Valiant Thor?
Yeah, there's something to that. That's
he looked like us.
That's what I've heard. A lot of them look like us. They're very similar.
And the Nordics for the most part, look like us. So I wonder how many, when you go walking up and down the street, are you really seeing what's there? Are you seeing what they want you to see?
The simulation continues.
Uh-huh.
One of my weirder experiences, I was walking a Siberian Husky in Lynn Haven, Florida, and a rusty orange ball floated over the road. And it was like just a rusty, like a huge one. It was big. I don't know what to compare the size to, but it was big. And I looked to see if there was like something like a crane carrying it or a helicopter. There was nothing. It was just like a weird rusty ball, like it had been in water, maybe. I don't know, but that was one of my weirder ones that I don't know. I mean, maybe there's an explanation, but maybe there were little aliens in it. I don't know, but it was a crazy, just a rusty ball floated over the street with nothing attached to it. Like I even looked like, is something carrying that? Like, is there a chain? Nothing. So that was really weird. And there's been a lot of them with things where it seems like they're there because for you, and you wonder if you've been taken. But I don't think I have. If so, I don't remember anything. I don't. Uh, there's been times I've seen myself on a table with Grays in my imagination, but that's just it. I don't know if that's that my imagination from when I played Dungeons and Dragons back in the day and I was a dungeon master. Like, I don't know. Maybe I was taken. I don't know. So, I mean, you could sit there too and say, was I taken with yours? Or did they get me astrally? I don't know, but it goes through your mind. Like, maybe that's why I'm seem messed up sometimes. Maybe they did take me and wipe my mind. But I really don't know. I don't think I was, but you still have that little suspicion with it for sure. Did they zap me up? Did that ever cross your mind at all or no?
It has. It has. Being that the what I've referred to previously, that I've been alive for a long time and had other lives, I factor into this. When you pray, think about it. How's your prayer answered? How's it heard?
Like telepathy?
Well, yeah, that may be a coverall for it, but you're sending electrical brain waves out. They're being interpreted and being absorbed and read by someone in order to get your prayer answered. Now, the methodology to that, I'm not real sure, but biblically speaking, there are no secrets. Everything we say and do will be broadcast to everyone. So it's like we're in a closed loop system. Everything's recorded. Everything we do is recorded. Everything we say is recorded. So you just wonder, and I know that angels fly in crafts too. And is it possible that when you send these brain waves out, like Chris Bledsoe, for example, we talked about the fellow in North Carolina that can actually call the orbs. When you send these brain waves out, is it possible that you are connecting with your guardian angel or an angel? I mean, I think about this stuff a lot. So just like Daniel with his encounters with Gabriel, um, these things happen. So these angels that are in these crafts, is it possible they carry your prayers to perhaps God, and then your prayers are acted upon? It's just things of that nature that get me.
So you used to like preach in front of crowds and stuff, right? I mean, that's what you used to do, right?
Well, I did not preach in front of crowds. I mean, I've preached from behind the pulpit before. Maybe I've done maybe 17 sermons, but I'm not a preacher.
Okay.
Even though I'm ordained and been baptized and all the good stuff you do, saved and all the terminology that's used. Uh, um, but for me now, I operate on a completely different plane on my belief structures, on the way I was brought up versus now after seeing the craft. So I'm much more in tune to all the traditions around the world, including Buddhism and Hinduism, and I have an open mind. Let me put it that way. Um, I've learned meditation. I'm not very good at it, but I do believe in it, and I do practice it. And I've learned about the soul and the ego, and I've learned so many different things, near-death experiences, shared death experiences, all this stuff that wasn't even in my repertoire up until after the craft. So
I remember the Buddha story. I guess the Buddha was meditating and it rained or something, and a Naga came and covered him up so he could continue and whatever. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if it was a Naga, but some kind of reptilian. That was a weird one that I remember. It's pretty interesting.
well, we all have these powers in us. They're just not tapped. I tell you what, let me go back again and talk about Paul in the Bible. He was persecutor of Christians, as we all know. He did not immediately become an apostle. He was sent off for training for 3 years before he became an apostle. He was sent to Saudi Arabia, where Elisha, in Elisha realm, and where Yahweh's home was, very close to there, Seir. But he came back to be an apostle, and in that short 3 years, he learned that he could bring someone back to life, like Eutychus or a blind Elymas, just by looking at him, and made him go blind. He didn't have those powers before. Now, that's just a case that I think we all have abilities in us, but we've lost our teachers. And I think we're kind of stagnant now as a society.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird place, that's for sure.
Maybe going backwards, retrograde.
Yeah, it's definitely just the war stuff alone lately. My God, I'm so sick of hearing Putin. I was like, just do it and shut up.
Mm.
Not that I want that to happen, but it's like, God, he's annoying.
I think I just read an article today where maybe he's wanting now to negotiate.
Yeah, I swear I saw an article that said he did something. It was on Microsoft News. He did something to jam all the GPS over like airlines in Europe or something like.
Yep,
Something.
I read that as well.
That's
And I
crazy.
also read that he's recently had a coronary. He had a heart attack.
I don't like
His
him.
guards found him on the floor, cardiac arrest.
I mean, that's like something out of James Bond, like a villain. That's just crazy. I mean, basically blocking all the GPS of all the airliners so they can crash.
What about the satellite that he's just put up in the sky? Some of our people say that it's more than a satellite.
I believe it. And then you got China with that fake sun. What the hell are they doing with that weird sun they're launching? I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. A fake sun? Why? What do you need that for? It's already hot as hell. They're trying to make it hotter. They keep it up during night so it'll be day over there all the time. I don't even understand it. What the hell they're doing? But
I've talked about this before. When all these countries start getting their own abilities to do things, I mean, where India's and Japan's going to the moon, and everybody's starting to realize that there's more things out there in this final frontier. That if we're not doing it together, we could have some real problems. And We could very well have a false flag invasion. I've talked about that on several other talks with some people that I could see that happening as a method of disclosure, having a false flag invasion.
Project
We
Blue.
would think, yeah, we people would think that it's an alien invasion. It's really us, and the people inside the onion would be doing it to bring the planet together, so we would realize that we're all breathing the same oxygen and become more uniform in our belief structure.
And recently, China is doing the drills to punish Taiwan. Like they're doing drills around.
Yeah, I saw that today too. Yeah, that's pretty scary. I don't know where we're going with that, but
That's bad.
yeah, we need to get our act together on this planet. We really do, and realize that we're all the same. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're all breathing the same oxygen. And if we could act in uniformity, we could really control diseases and really share our knowledge and really be out there and really make some advances, not only social wise, but in medicine and physics. We could force the issue even, but I don't see it happening until we implode, and we will implode, I believe, not from disclosure, but from what you mentioned, with different countries getting more powerful and dissension, that type of thing. The same thing that's happening in Washington, D.C. now. That could very well be when Christ comes back, Jeffrey. When things get so bad, we start blowing ourselves up.
Yep, and there's been instances. I've had Robert Salas on. He wrote a book about the UFO shutting down the missile silos and stuff.
Yep.
That's interesting. So they do take note of that, and it just seems like if anything happens big on a war scale, that it just leads to everyone dying. Like if we go to war with China, it seems like everyone's just going to die. If we go to war with Russia, everyone's just going to die. I mean, that's just once it goes, all those bombs go off, it's over.
Well, let me put it to you this way: we're being watched all the time, so it could be over, but I honestly believe it will be picked up.
And I've Nancy Red Star. I've had her on a long time ago, Cherokee, and has Star People book and stuff. She was telling some native. This was a long time ago, but there's some native stories of some cultures being picked up by the Star People and taken to other continents because calamities came. So that's pretty fascinating.
Yep, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting for sure. I can't remember the names or anything, but I have her books somewhere around here. Getting a ride, hitchhiking for a ride.
In crossing the crevasse, I also mentioned crop circles that have been around. They really got popular back in around 1980, but they're still an enigma today. Just so our audience knows, Doug Bauer and Dave Corley, took the rap for making them, and then of course, we always want an answer fast, and that was the answer we got. So it died and no longer on the radar, but people in the know that they're still being made, and we don't know exactly for sure how they're being made, but orbs are involved. And,
yeah, I've seen some stuff with Patty Greer with the orb and things like that.
It just takes a few seconds to make a legitimate crop circle.
I've heard satellites can make them. I don't know how true that is, but maybe. I don't know. But not to say everyone's made by a government satellite, but it wouldn't surprise me if they could do it on some level too.
Perhaps. I don't know why we'd want to, but 80% of them seem to be in England, but they've been in 50-some countries, and I don't know. We're getting close to 20,000 of them being reported.
It's the wee folk. There's definitely a connection to all that fairy lore and all this stuff for
Yep,
sure.
yep, from Ireland. Yep.
The wee
But,
folk.
You just can't imagine people being out there with snowshoes on, making them like we were led to believe. And then, we sent the Arecibo satellite out with Carl Sagan that we put out there, Arecibo. And back in '74, we got a crop circle back in response. Uh, uh, 21 years later or something, in August of 2001, where we'd sent out our DNA, and the crop circle actually had the correction in the DNA. And it included silicone. It included a 3-foot high, what appeared to be a gray, and some other little tweaks. And I thought that would really, really be mainstream news, and you'd be surprised of how many people not even know of it. So they're out there. We got our answer, and not too many people want to accept it, though.
What is
I
the?
have a picture. I have a picture of it in Crossing the Crevasse.
Oh, okay. What is the crux? The crux.
The crux
Yes,
of, I don't know what you mean.
it's one of your chapters called the crux. You talk about Richard
Oh,
and by
yeah.
Saint.
Well,
We're all over the place. I know. That's what I.
I mean, we're back to my we're back to my book. That's generally a summation. Um, I get into the Eisenhower's speech, his farewell speech on how we needed to be alert. He was giving off hints right and left on how society needs to be alert. And I don't think we are alert. We're too concerned with our kids' soccer game or our kids' softball game, or whether we have 3 or 4 bars on our cell phone. We're not an alert society. So what the government's doing, they're easily doing. The secret government. I get into the secret government a lot. I get into problems in the Bible. Recap a lot of that. I mean, I know people that's gotten their PhDs by standing up in front of people saying that the Bible is God's true word. Each and every word of it is from God, and it's all right. So I just question, how many errors do you have to point out for it to be God's word? And you can just look in Matthew chapter 27 and read about Jeremiah the prophet, and you you go to Jeremiah and look for it. It's not there. It's actually in Zechariah. So that is a blatant error. And there's mistranslations. There's mistranscriptions. There's bad transmissions, whatever they can call it. It's just full of problems. And a lot of these I uncover and put in my book. And I continue putting them in within grasp, and have continued putting them in the nucleus, which is the third book I just finished. So I have basically gone through the Bible page by page, verse by verse, and pointed out a lot of things that people just don't realize that are in there because you don't hear it and you don't read it. You get selected information. And I mentioned about stars and how the UFOs are all through the Bible. Mentioned that the God of the Bible has 18,000 worlds to look after. That's in the Babylonian Jewish Talmud. And this is just one of the 18,000. And his appearance here was labeled a visitation. And that's why he's not here now. He could only stay so long, and that kind of thing. So I just made a recap of all those topics: the flood, the 6,000-year-old Earth theory, and all that together to make the crux.
Definitely, and the nucleus is the third book. The
Yep.
nucleus.
Yep. It's a little more spiritual in nature. You know, after I wrote Crossing the Crevasse, I did not get to see Stan Friedman, but I did get to meet and have a sit down with Reverend Michael Carter, and he convinced me that I'm on this spiritual path. So I told him I would, follow where I'm led and take the blinders off, and that's exactly what's happened with me. Um, I've, put a lot of information in the nucleus, and all it's personal in nature, having to do with soul and ego and being alive before, and that we never die, and what Jesus was really trying to teach us, and how it was misinterpreted, and some other snafus in the Bible. I really get into God a lot. It may change your opinion of God after you read the nucleus, if you're up to it. So I'm throwing that out as a warning. I really get into that in a couple of chapters, and I was really going to, I guess, make some very strong points between the God of the Old Testament and the God in the New Testament, and I got a little tap on the shoulder in the form of a heart attack. Not to print that. So that chapter was taken out. So I watered it down and tweaked a lot of the other chapters, or this book would have been done several months earlier. Let me just say the Holy Spirit is still with us today and is alive and well. I'll just say that. And perhaps the fact that I am ordained, maybe I'm looked at a little more discreetly. Maybe the responsibility level goes up a notch or two. I know it does, if you're a teacher. I thought maybe if I printed everything I really wanted to say, it might be a stumbling block for people. So I watered it down quite a bit and just stuck to some, facts verbatim.
You got to spoon feed.
Yeah. I really get into some, I guess, incorporating some beliefs of other traditions. It's amazing. If you study Hinduism, you study Buddhism, even Mohammedanism, or Muslim.
Well, I
before
love
the abrogation, a lot of the stuff meshes together. You just have to look for it. It meshes together.
It's interesting. I love Norse stuff. I love native stuff, and I've read a lot of Buddhism. Definitely no expert, but I have tons of books on that stuff, and I just love it, learning about it. And who doesn't like stories about Thor and Loki and Odin? That stuff's just like Lord of the Rings cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's hard not to like that stuff. But
look at all these cultures around the world. You mentioned Norway. Every country has these people that they worship as gods. Whether you were in Mexico, or what we call now Mexico, or India, or China, or Japan, wherever you go, Peru, everybody had their gods, and they've all disappeared. They're just history now. Even the God of the Old Testament has disappeared. He's no longer here. So, my God now for me is a New Testament belief. My God for me now is light, love, and spirit.
yes,
My Old Testament God who walked, who was jealous, who perpetrated evil on people, who killed children. I just can't handle that any longer. Who went down because he had to find out for himself, so he went down. He couldn't know from up in the sky. It doesn't resonate with me anymore. So my God is the New Testament God, And I have come, for me now, love is the common denominator through the universe. We're all connected. Everything is connected. And we're
Yes.
finding this out now in quantum physics. You could take a tuning fork and ding it, and if you have an F sharp, only the F sharp tuning fork will vibrate amongst all the other tuning forks you may have. And we're knowing that you can move a molecule or an atom at one point in space, and an equivalent one moves at another point in space. Um,
Yeah.
we know that for a fact now. I'm not even sure that distance is what we make it out to be. I know I interviewed Dr. Paul Smith in Within Grasp when we talked about this before, and I asked him, did distance make any difference? When you're doing this remote viewing, and he said, no, distance does not make any difference at all. I mean, it takes the same amount of time to look through your wall into your closet here beside you as it does to look at something on Mars or out on Pluto. The distance is irrelevant.
Well, it's great that you question things. We need more of that. And I grew up. My dad was a preacher in Georgia, and we had some. My great grandfather was a preacher, and he was very abusive to my mom and her sisters, sexually
Sorry to
abusive.
hear that.
And it made my mom never want to go to church, and she still believes in God and stuff, but we've had that, and it's definitely put a shadow over things. Any church you kind of get just a give the evil eye to, because you don't trust it when something like that happens on so many different levels of the abuse and things like that. But one thing and the way that you think with this helps me on a lot of levels. And one of the things that helped me too was I got into those Neil Donald Walsh conversations with God books, and he kind of does that too in a lot of ways, and those helped me when I was younger as well. But it's refreshing that you do that. That's good. It's good to do it.
Well, I'm ecumenical now, and a lot of the stuff I've discovered, you cannot go to a Christian bookstore and think you're going to get the truth. You're going to get what's been taught in seminaries and Bible schools and through students that fits the same agenda than we've had since Jerome wrote the Bible or put it together back in 400 or 402 CE. So you're getting bits and pieces and shades, but you're not getting the whole truth. You've got to do your own study, look at church history, look at Bible history, look at the books that were taken out, realize why they were taken out, realize the Bible is a work of man, not of God, realize that the God of the New Testament is the way the Bible is written is completely different than the God of the Old Testament, and realize that Jesus taught let's just say upper knowledge to his disciples and to some of the book that's within some of the books that did not make it into the Bible. And that includes reincarnation. It exists, it's real. And the fact that we don't die, the fact that we've been alive, that's how God knew us before we were born. If you're where I came from in the Southern Baptist, we've had a conversation on that before. I said, no, I was alive before I was born. And my preacher looked at me in the eye and says, no, that's the wrong interpretation. The interpretation that is correct is that God knew that he was going to make you a new creature. And I'm saying, no, God knew me because I was alive already. And I'm fully convinced I'm ancient. I'm not a new creation. I'm ancient. I've been around a lot. And I think we all have. We may or may not be cognizant of it, but we're all on our own spiritual paths. And we're all at different points on that spiritual path. And, I don't believe in hell per se anymore. I believe in a reckoning when we pass. But I fully believe I had a say-so in the life that I have here. I believe we all have. We chose this for specific areas to work on to improve our consciousness level, which is really our goal. Our goal really is to become more like Jesus, have an ultra high conscious level, to not even let negative thoughts, come in through our eyes or into our brains, and to become beings of true light. I think that's really in our future. Since time doesn't exist, I can't sit here and tell you how long it's going to take for us to get there, because that's really a moot, conversation. But we're all on our own paths. I'm fully convinced of that. And I'm fully convinced that I had a say-so in this life that I'm living. So I'll let that ride.
And I hope it's not forced. Like you have to go there. You gotta go. Force it. Like parents make you go to school. Hopefully
Well, I don't think that you're forced to go. I think you have a say-so. Let's put it that way. I think by the time you have your reckoning from the life that you have, and we all have this innate desire to be more like the Father. We all are spiritual beings. Our home is not here. Our home is up there in heaven, in the spiritual realm. That when you're back in the spiritual realm, you will know what you need to work on. And you will know where you have failed. You know where you have succeeded. And I'm fully convinced of that. I've read too many books, and it all resonates with me.
Yeah. I've wondered when I've seen those beings of light in the heavens, if that's what some of them are doing, like a life review or something. I mean, I don't know, but I've wondered that when I've seen it. It kind of looks
we have spiritual guides. We have spiritual guides, and I'm fully convinced that when we pass and we cross over back home to the spiritual realm, our guide will sit down with us and give us the life review. We'll see everything. And not only will we see it, but if you've said something to somebody with that little hook on the end, like we all have, or say something, let me just say, non-edifying to someone, you will interpret that and be able to realize that from that other person's perspective. That's how you will learn and realize what you said, how it hurts or helps them. It's not something you will just see yourself doing, but you will see it from the other person's perspective.
Man, it's going to be like waterboarding for me a few times here.
Well, let me tell you, I have made my share of mistakes in this lifetime. I wish I knew, 40 years ago what I know now, but that's not the case.
Well, it seems like with humans there is like a dark side. If you just like run your mouth, it's nothing good's going to come out if you don't think first. That's for sure.
That is true.
I know firsthand. Well, we got about 2 minutes. It's been a great show. I loved it, and I appreciate it. And what's your link? And Crossing the Crevasse, everybody. Where's the best place to pick it up?
Amazon. You want to get the blue one? The original first edition is still listed. It's the red book, but you want to get the blue book. It's the second edition. It's called My Epiphany: How It Affected the Bible and Disclosure. It's the blue book with a picture of a craft, not the exact one I saw, but a craft on it. It's the blue book. You'll also see within grasp there. If you just type in my name, W. Wallace Wagner Jr., it will bring up the books. You can also go to my website, otherflocks.net, and there's an active link there to take you to Amazon. You can also read about the books there and what some other people have said.
All righty. Well, we appreciate it so much. It's been a great show. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Jeffrey. Wham, good to see you. Enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Wham's got a cat sick episode, so she's been having to deal with that too. We had that happen too with a kitten. A spider got a little kitten, and it's been just horrific, like wounds. Oh my God, I don't want to get into it, but it's just she seems like she's gonna be okay, but it was just God.
I had to put my cat to sleep about 4 or 5 weeks ago, so that was tough.
I'm sorry.
Old.
We got it. We had a black cat, and we brought a young cat here someone gave us, and next thing you know, young cat lets out 3 younger cats. So these things are like gremlins if you don't take care of it. You got to be careful. Like the gremlins are out. But we're keeping them because there's a mouse problem from the field. So, but we're getting them fixed and stuff because I cannot have 30 cats here. That's for sure. But we appreciate everybody, and Wham, I hope your cat gets some relief. And thanks everybody. Next week, Steven Snyder, that'll be Jay, I believe, and he's got a Stanley Kubrick, The Minotaur, his book about Stanley Kubrick and stuff like that. But thanks so much, Wally. It's a great show, and keep us in the queue for the 3rd book.
Will do. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
Evening. Yep.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.